Hi, my name is John Flood, and thank you for watching The Dream. I am the director, writer, actor, editor, and a few other things. It was a movie that I had to put together through COVID and the pandemic and everything that's wrapped around it. Most of it I had to do alone by myself, which was a great learning experience, as you can imagine. But I put my heart into it, and it was almost therapeutic because during the pandemic, it was, as you can imagine, very hard to find a therapist if you were stressed out or you had anxiety or you had any issues going on that caused you any kind of panic or anything like that. And so I was able to take a story that was made up and add a little bit about what was going on in my world and bring it into this movie, which again, it's not totally real. My, for example, the character that I play is a dad as well as I am, and he does have a mother that is sick like I do. My mother does not have COVID and she's not dying from it, but she does have a terminal illness that if she were to get COVID, I guarantee my anxiety would also be through the roof. And worrying about a daughter or a child going to school, and you just don't, there's not enough knowledge out there to know what this can do to anybody. So we all went through a horrible year, and this is a little bit of saying you're not alone. We all went through this, and this is how anxiety and panic and stress can affect dreams. So my title screen, Brown Dog Films, is actually named after a dog that I had named Gertie. And Gertie lived to be 14 years old. She was a rescue dog. You'll see her throughout this whole film. I think that I definitely incorporated her and memorialized her within this film. The first intro scenes that you can see here, um, she's in almost every picture, and I wanted to make sure that she was incorporated, showing the characters, showing that she was tied in with the mother of the main character, the daughter, and himself, and that the scenery is showing that they're in the fall, late fall. You can tell that the trees are already changing colors. In the dream, in one of the scenes, it was actually 2 days before a big storm came and wiped out all of the leaves off the trees and blew away all of the colored leaves that were on the ground, and it went from beautiful to a complete wipeout of fall. In the beginning part, I wanted to use a lot of the fall look, so that's why I chose to use the trees with the orange and reddish colored leaves, because fall is my favorite season. I think that uh, being that we were told that we could do anything we wanted to with this video, and I was putting my heart into it, I'm gonna give it all. I'm gonna give you my favorite season. I'm gonna give you my mom, my daughter, my dog. The only thing I didn't give you was my wife, because she didn't want to be in this film. She had already been in a previous film that I made, and she needed a time out, a break from films, but she was heavily incorporated in helping out with decision points and editing and anything like that. When wrapping up this intro part here, I I wanted to incorporate this single frame photo of the memorial that my daughter and I made for our dog Gertie the day that she passed away. It's a big poster that I framed of her and her favorite treat sitting in the front yard, where she always sat every day watching the sun go down with me. It's her favorite bed, her leash, a couple of her treats, flowers that neighbors gave us, and some candles. And the whole neighborhood was quite affected by this because everybody loved her, and um, to me to show the life that she had, and then this one single non-action frame was important to show at this part of the film. Now for this title screen, I wanted to catch these leaves while I could at like 5:30 in the morning while it was just barely still dark, and there was possibly some frost on them from the night before. They were crispy but still a little fresh. Still had that orange color to them. I did have problems with the first cut of this scene because it was so dark that it was grainy. I had brought my ISO way up on my camera to compensate for that and be able to save it so that I could use it for the title screen. I actually brought it into After Effects and used an app and actually a feature that I could add to it called denoiser, and tweaking that around a little bit made it a little bit softer, and it worked well with the title The Dream in orange, and I got the colors to complement each other a little bit. Now to start this off, I really wanted to portray a dad sneaking down the stairs, trying not to wake up anybody, reaching out to get his morning coffee made, and then stepping outside to watch the sun come up, kind of have a meditation moment, a moment of peace before the craziness of the day started, before he turns on the news, before he prepares for work, before his daughter goes to school. Peace, something that he could relate to. Peace was his coffee cup and the sunshine and being in that wooded area in the yard. And so the blue to me is just the blue that I put into these scenes. Reminds me of the morning time when it's early in the kitchen and still reminiscent of nighttime. Just like a moonlit glow, but on the inside, possibly even a glow off microwaves or something like that. I wanted to keep the blue as a tone to represent peacefulness, maybe rest, something like that. Now, standing out here by this door, there's actually one of our school given lights are out there. I have it. What I wanted to do was have the sunrise reflect into the blinds there, but the morning before when I tested it, the sunrise wasn't bright enough. And so I simply plugged in one of the panel lights out there, the LCD lights, and cranked it up to about 5600 Kelvin and let it go behind me, so it created a really good contrast of my silhouette, but still had that blue light going. And to me, it's I know I was freezing because we had just transitioned here from fall to, I guess you could say, winter time, and so it was cold out there that morning, and I was kind of taking my time preparing to put on my coat here. So in this scene, I'm drinking my coffee, and I wanted to portray that the character is again sipping coffee, hoping for peace, watching the sunrise, taking deep breaths, meditating, before he walks into the daily fire. Doesn't expect anything to happen, wants to just see the beauty of the nature in the backyard. And this is the peace before the day. He picks up one of the leaves to take a look at it. It's got frost all over it. Great contrast of colors between the orange and the frost in the grass. I had to fit this in somehow, some way. This next scene I know I had to make fast. I wanted to make it punch really hard. And because things in life generally happen in threes, at least in my life it does, I wanted this character to get hit with three specific hard stresses and anxieties. The first thing I wanted to make sure the audience knew was that he was reaching out to a picture of his dog. The wood box next to the dog picture is an urn. It's her actual ashes. It's my dog's ashes, but great prop for the reasoning of this film. And how do you explain that he is reaching out to the picture for good luck, say, please let this be a good day. Please, I'm begging you, because when you were here and you were alive, I depended on you to calm me down, and you were the greatest dog in that nature, and that's what I wanted this to show. It was very, very hard to do that. And if it doesn't come through, that's okay. It will, because the dog comes up again. The other idea is that his mom is there and his daughter is there. So the three anxieties hit right now. And the first being that the news goes on and he hears about COVID hitting high schools in the area and schools in the area, period. And his daughter goes running out the door. And he doesn't even have time to think about his daughter running into the schools with COVID. And the second thing he gets is a text on his phone right away that his stepdad is saying that his mother is in the hospital dying of COVID because she's already sick and the COVID hit her hard, and so now he's got two big anxieties. And And the third one that puts him over the edge to the point of a panic attack and a blackout is he gets an email from his work right away, 1, 2, 3, that they're doing massive layoffs. And with that, I wanted to turn down the music, the background music, turn down the news a little bit, and then add in a heartbeat that got quicker as the scene went on. And I think I did okay with it. I know the people and even children that I've showed this to, they go, "Is his heart beating quicker? How do you hear his heart?" And it was kind of cool to hear people's reactions to it. But panic attacks are also a hard situation to go into, so we'll go into that next. So in the next scene, after he feels his chest and he feels this panic attack coming after the three big events, the three big news things hit him hard, he gets up and in a panic attack, one might feel dizzy, they might feel like they can't breathe. It's different for everybody. So he goes to the bathroom and throws some water on his face and looks in the mirror and tries to calm himself down and says, I'm just going to take this one thing at a time. Because that's all you can do in a situation like that. You can't put them in a certain order. You just have to take them one thing at a time and calmly. But while he says that, all of a sudden his eyes roll back in his head and he blacks out into a panic attack, dream, a blackout. And this is where our story really starts. Before I start this next scene, I want to talk about the song that's in it. It's called Burn. It's from the movie The Crow with Brandon Lee from back in the late 90s. And it's actually recorded from the band The Cure. And in this case, it's redone by the band Stabbing Westward. I reached out to the band for permission to use the song for my film. And I also reached out to the record label. Both were more than happy after watching the film to give me written permission to use the song for the film. And they actually wanted to continue to work on future projects, which all in all, I can tell you it was such an honor to have that because, number one, The Crow was such an inspiration on my childhood and inspiration on my current film. And Stabbing Westward is from my hometown. I grew up listening to them. They're a big part of me. They went to my college, and actually the band was named after my college, Western Illinois University. They just didn't like the people from the university, I guess. But this song, to me, is everything to this film. And I'm just so pleased with the way it turned out. One day I played hooky in the morning at work, and I clocked in, and then I ran by myself with my drone to this park, and it was actually it was closed down. It was said closed for the winter, but I snuck in there with my drone, and I put it straight up over the trees and had the camera face straight down. And when I looked at the screen, I saw the colors, and I knew just leave it there. And so I'm no athlete at 41 years old, but I can run okay. So I started doing wind sprints back and forth on this trail, and started piecing together in my head how they were going to look. And so I'd review it while the drone was up there, and I'd take a look, and I'd do it from different angles, run back and forth. I'd turn the drone around, and this was one of many shots that I got, and it turned out just absolutely beautiful and stunning with it. So in a dream, there are no rules. You don't have to be anywhere. Nothing has to make sense. You could be running from something. You could be falling from something. You could be scared of something, you have no idea what it is. Nothing has to make sense. It could relate to what you're doing day to day, or it could be contrasted to what you're doing day to day. Or it could just make up random things and people. The boogeyman. And so this is just a compilation of dreams that I've had and researched on Google, researched on different sites, and asked around to different friends, and pretty much put a compilation together of a few dreams. The first part of the dream is the character running from something, and he hears something, and he can't really see it, but he hears it. It's coming after him. Once this thing gets close enough, and it's obviously loud enough because he's covering his ears, he's feeling like it's going over his head. He blanks out again into his dream. It blurs out, and he goes right into a contrasted setting from a forest to a city alley. And we have a city alley in Chicago that a friend of mine met me at, and we were lucky enough one day to have really good overcast weather, so it wasn't too bright. It looked very dreamy set. The red brick was just unbelievable in terms of how textured it was, and all the mismatched bricks that were in the walls. The cobblestone and brick ground were just beautiful. We went in there with a drone at first, and the drone wouldn't fly straight in there. The sensors didn't like how narrow the walls were. And so we did a little bit of work with our Sony FS5, but a lot of the work that you're seeing, especially some of the shots from downward up, those were all with a GoPro. The GoPro, I think we used the 8 on that, and we just put it in 120 FPS, and we shot it at different angles and different movements, crane movements and dolly movements, and we spent about 3 hours running back and forth and finding the right shots for this. And basically what the character is doing is continuously running from the forest scene to this alley, getting to this dead end and looking around and wondering which path to take. Which path is he supposed to go to? He looks left, he looks right, he looks front, and then decides he's going to turn around and run back where he came from. Maybe it's safe. He has no idea. It's a dream. There's no rules. But on his way back, he's running so fast that he falls into this. I've been calling it a portal. It was my vision that he'd run and just poof, disappear into the next scene. The first trial to do this, and the reason why you see in the special effects here that I added with After Effects, is that he was supposed to run so fast that he tripped on a brick and fell into a sewer that it would be a black hole. and he would just fall into the next scene. It didn't look right. Black hole looked cheesy. I couldn't put one into a first-person viewer kind of scene, and so I put a straight up and down black circle, and I was able to find it on a site and use it as a layer in After Effects, and I put a little bit of cloud, fog, smoke at the bottom, and some lightning effects, and then a little bit of fire effects, and then the rumble of thunder in the background, which I kind of changed the tone around a little bit. I thought it's not perfect. I'm not a special effects artist, but for what I wanted it for this dream, like with no rules, I thought this turned out really good. The transitional scene, this is something that I had tested a couple times on a couple different things of the character falling. So he runs into the portal and then he falls down. This was going to be just a black screen that he was falling from. I felt like it wasn't good enough. We've all fallen in our dream and poof, hit something and had this big shock in our chest. But the falling thing, we've all felt falling from something. But I wanted to get it so it looked like he was actually falling, because you can't portray a dream falling on film. It's very hard for at least where we are in our careers and education and all that. And so for this one, I thought falling from dark clouds where you can't see the ground and you can't see the ceiling, I think that was a good representation. And especially during a treacherous kind of thunderstorm where he's kind of in the hero's journey, he's hit his point of no return. He's going, no matter what, he's going into this dark hole, into this dark space where he might face his worst conflict ever. So in this, I put up a green screen on the wall in our basement, just a $15 green sheet that I bought on Amazon, stapled it to the wall. And then I found a footrest, and I laid on it, and I put a fan behind it so it would blow my hair up while I was laying on it. And then I just filmed myself in several positions, acting like I'm falling in slow motion. And then I put this all in After Effects, and I made it all into a bunch of layers. Found the clips on a site, I think it was Motion Array, I found the thunderstorm on. And in After Effects, I made it so that it wasn't just him falling, like as if he's laying on top of a footrest. He's actually turning and moving around a little bit so that it gave him a little bit of a movement to this scene. It's one of my favorite scenes that I wish I had worked with an editor on to kind of come up with other ways to make it work better. But I just love the colors on it. I love the way that I feel like it does look like the character's falling. This part of the dream is something that I have all the time, and it's a part where you've fallen and you've hit rock bottom and you feel almost paralyzed, and everyone around you is screaming your name for help. They're screaming to wake you up. They're screaming from all different directions, and you can't move. You don't know where they are. You can't see where they're coming from, and you feel lost. So in this scene, he's hearing his mother calling him, his daughter and his dog, all the people that he cares about the most that are going through the toughest times. And he's screaming to himself, and he doesn't know what to do. He's crying in his own dream. And then all of a sudden his mother says that you're big enough to face these demons. You need to stand up and face these demons. As soon as he hears to stand up and face your demons is the part of the movie that I think is one of the best. It's one of my favorite parts. When I have horrible stress days, where work, family life, my own mental health is struggling, I'll have dreams about things like floods or tornadoes, and If you go to the library or you go online and you look up symbolic things in dreams like tornadoes are symbolic of your life spinning around you or out of control, and it makes sense, you know. And it's interesting how the mind goes that direction, that you're spinning out of control. And so I went and found a spinning fire tornado and a regular tornado, and I layered them on top of each other. And what I wanted him to do was come back in the house after hearing you're strong enough to face your demons, open up these windows, see this spinning tornado, be strong enough to stand in front of it, and then turn around and see the demon that's been haunting him. So when he turns around, he tries screaming as hard as he can and loud as he can at this demon, but nothing is coming out of his mouth. And that's a dream that I had when I was younger, when I was a kid, was always screaming something at the evil thing in my dream, the boogeyman, the whatever the bad thing was, and nothing coming out, just screaming, but nothing. And so that's what I wanted to show in this scene. This next part, kind of like the rest of the movie, where it's a little touchy on how to really design it, because it's still a dream. This kind of resembles
How did I get up
when
here?
you think you're awake, but you're not.
How am I still
You've
wearing
all
my
had that
clothes?
situation where you wake up in the middle of the night,
How'd you guys
you
get
think
up?
you're getting up to go somewhere, and all of a sudden you find yourself just back into another dream. The character has this shock. He wakes up after he faces that demon, and he's still wearing his clothes that he was previously wearing from the last couple scenes. He still has his coat on, he still has his jeans on, his shirt, everything else. And he turns over and he sees that all the picture frames that were on his desk are sitting right next to him, next to his bed. And it makes no sense to why they were right there. So those pictures were fresh in his mind before he went to bed. And so I really wanted him to have this moment where he doesn't know if he's awake or if he's still dreaming, and he sees those pictures and he's just shocked what is going on. And the first thing that comes to mind is the safety of his daughter. So he sits up and starts walking into her room.
Lily?
And peeks in, and this is
Lily?
where I made my daughter kind of jump in and do a little bit of her acting expertise, as she says. I turned on her little star lamp. It's her favorite little nighttime lamp, which went really well with the blue lighting that I had already set up for the scene, because it contrasted the reds and the blues, especially with the movement of the stars. And I really wanted to do that effect that you see in a lot of movies, where you see the door slowly creeping open from black. So like you see a little bit of either the light kind of. I really want to do that element you see in a lot of movies, where you see the door, where you see like a little bit of light just opening up, and then the doors opening, like in an elevator scene or something like that. But I think it turned out pretty good, where the door opens up slowly and kind of creepily. The character turns his head in to look and see if his daughter is sleeping. You see a shot of the daughter sleeping there with the stars going around her, and then he kind of gives a little turn of the head, like what I guess I was just dreaming. And he turns around and he walks back towards his room, I guess, to go back to bed. So it's a turning point of, is this over yet or is it not? So he walks back to the room. This is something I wanted to make quick, and one of those whoa, what did I just see moments for the viewer, where the dog, I found an old clip of my dog and used After Effects to do a mask of her and put in some shadows and glow elements to it and some smoke around her, and try to make her look like a ghost. And as the character walks back into his room, sees the dog for a moment, with a dog bone in front of her and her leash. And as he's looking at the ghost that he just saw, he trips on her bone and falls forward. And he goes back into this spiral fall. But in this end, I wanted to do something different than the first fall. Yes, it looks like he's falling in the first clip, but here now he's going back up. And he's going back up to where he started in that white light when he passed out in the panic attack. He goes up towards the white light and then wakes up. I wanted to do kind of he fell into the dream and then he fell out of the dream. So that's why I kind of reversed it. It looks a little awkward, but I wanted to do like a brighter light that he comes into, not a storm. And I really like the way that he changes and comes out of this dream. So now we're back to the bathroom, and with the bathroom, I threw in a couple light leaks to show that possibly there's a ghost presence or something where, you know, maybe it's still blending in with the dream still or not. But when he first passed out, he's not standing while he's dreaming. He's on the ground. I mean, where else would he be in the bathroom? So he's on the ground, and he's got rapid eye movement. You can see his eyes moving under his lids, and then all of a sudden he gets that shock like he had in the dream, in the previous scene with the blue scene. He gets a shock and he wakes up and he takes a deep breath. Then his eyes open really big. Has no idea where he is. Gets that shock like he had in that blue scene, and then a real close up of where am I awake yet? Is this real? He gets up and heads back towards his office. Now the office scene, it's sort of comical to me because I worked with this guy for 7 years. He was my manager in Chicago at my previous job, and one of my closest best friends for a long time. He was at my wedding, and he's a Chicago guy. You can hear it in his voice. He sounds funny, but he's actually pretty serious in this because he knew how serious the message in the story was. And so I go, Mike, I need you to talk like you were talking to me. And so he goes, you mean like a fart joke, like we used to? And I'm like, no, not like a fart joke, but as if I did something wrong or I was feeling sick and you were checking on me, pretty much. And so because I filmed this scene back in October, I used I went on the Adobe stock footage site and I found a green screen to use on a full screen on the laptop that's in this screen. So that's green screened. I went in and did a Zoom call with Mike and actually layered that on top of this green screen. So this green screen, or anytime you see Mike in this scene, he was never in this scene. He was on a Zoom call later that I took the video and put it in here. So I learned a lot of special effects with this movie, and that's what I wanted to do because I wanted to step up my game. Learning how to use a camera is amazing skill, but I wanted to be well-rounded, and one of my favorite things is learning special effects because the things that I learned in here to make my art look that much better, to get what I saw in my head on film, it's mind-blowing. It's limitless. As Mike is explaining to the character that it's okay to take the rest of the day off, you know, we see that you're clearly having a panic attack. You're sweating profusely. You're clearly just out of it. Mike is clearly understanding of this. He's saying, "Go on, go do your thing." The character looks down at the pictures and especially at his dog. And after that whole traumatic dream sequence, he breaks down. I wanted to show that not everybody is as strong to hold that much stress, anxiety, and just weight on their back. That breaking down is human. It's okay. It's okay to break down and feel things. And learning how to act to cry was very hard. It was super hard. It's so hard to the point where when I first showed it, my first cry scene to Tommy Dennis, he said, "No, it's not good enough." And I agreed. I said, "Tommy, this is not a good. This is not how I want to end this movie. I didn't like it. I just wasn't in the mood." And so we talked for a good hour on the phone, and he said, "This is how you're gonna cry. You have to think of something horrible. You have to put your mind into it. You have to method act this scene if you want to feel it." And so I brought myself back to the day that my dog died. I thought, why not find a fresh moment? The moment that I had to make the decision to bring her to the vet to have her put down. I brought that into my mind and thought long and hard about it. And you can't drop that as an actor, I found out. It's not something that you go into and then all of a sudden scene is over and you just drop that thought that you put in your head to become that scene. So if you start crying because you have this vision of something horrible, traumatic that happened in your life, and you act out that scene because you have that to help you, and like I did in this scene, I'm drooling, I'm crying, I'm sweating, I have my head down. The effects of that lasted for hours into the next day. You can't drop. Your mind gets so used to wanting to feel like that, that when I watch people like Jared Leto and Christian Bale and people that are method actors, when they take breaks from movies, that's why their mind, they just get so deep into it that it's so hard to come back. Being an actor is hard. I think it's one of the harder jobs on the set. And to end this director's cut, I really wanted to talk about the first slide of my ending credits, which is the mental health awareness slide. Whether you're watching this to find out the story of the movie, or you're watching this just because you're bored, or you've found that this has helped you understand anxiety, stress, pressure, and everything else that goes into what I put into this movie, I want you to look at the screen at this number and have it handy, whether it's for you or somebody you know. Have this number, the text line, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. People sometimes don't make it out of dreams like this. They start taking these panic-induced dreams and making them into real life. And they don't know which one is real and which one to come out of. And mental health is something that is serious. You've seen too many people go. Anthony Bourdain, one of the people that I idolize, and he's one of my role models. Chester Bennington, people that we love, that stress, that depression, and everything else. We need more help in this world. Take care of yourself. You're not alone. Thanks for watching.